Hello, everybody. Everybody hear me? I'm going to let everybody keep joining in here. Got a few more seconds. This is the BenQ Education December live webinar. Thank you all for joining in. Letting more and more people join into the broadcast here. We're almost there. Getting closer. I got a few housekeeping items I'll get to in just a second, and then we'll be off and rolling with the InstaShare demo. Okay, we about there? Okay, I'm going to get started. My name is Cooper Harrison. I'm with the BenQ Education Marketing Team. Today, we're going to unlock the power of wireless casting in the classroom with InstaShare. The housekeeping items of the day are going to be email, or the broadcast will go out a little later today. So feel free to send to colleagues and friends. The slides are attached on the registration page, so you can see the slides. We don't have a lot. I'll get to the giveaway prize here in a second, but as always, we do have a giveaway prize. And put your questions and comments in the chat, and I think, and we'll answer them at the end. All right, I'm going to get going again. My name is Cooper Harrison, and we are going to unlock the power of wireless casting in the classroom with InstaShare. And here are my slides. Everybody see those? Give me a second here. All right, everybody see? Okay, reminder, if you stay logged in the entire webinar or broadcast, you'll be eligible to win a BenQ Screen Bar Halo. So stay logged in the whole time, and we'll send out the winner afterwards. Okay, today is about InstaShare 2. And for those of you that have never seen a BenQ Smartboard, this is what the homepage looks like. And you can see the apps here that come with the board in the bottom center of the screenshot. Today is about this purple app, InstaShare 2. And just as a reminder about InstaShare, InstaShare 2 is our wireless screen sharing software that comes with all BenQ boards, completely subscription free. I like to say it comes with your dinner. No annual or monthly fees. You get it for the life of the board, just as a reminder. So very, very high level overview before we get to the demo. If you click on the purple app, you're going to see this purple display page, which has all of the compatible software with InstaShare, including Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. So once you've downloaded and you're synced, you're going to see this next page. And again, very high level overview. I call this kind of the 9-box configuration, but at BenQ, we call this Smart Split. And basically, this feature allows you to cast up to 9 devices from your classroom onto the smartboard. It can go as few as 2, as many as 9. But the cool piece to me is if you only had 4 students participating, it smartly configures to 4. Or if you had 5 students participating, it smartly configures to 5. So it just gets the whole classroom discussion going, which is really, really awesome. And then if I were just to hit just a few basic high-level benefits for InstaShare 2, number one, real success. What you really want, obviously, is you want to turn the classroom discussion into a visual discussion, get everybody involved. Student engagement. Obviously, you want to get the whole classroom talking, a collaborative learning environment. That's what InstaShare promotes. Everybody's seeing and talking about what they see. And then, another obvious one, obviously, is real-time feedback. When teachers can give quicker feedback, positive reinforcement, everyone's going to be able to play along and receive benefits from this, right? So that's pretty much all I have for my slides. I'm going to turn it over to Francisco Flores. He's one of our most experienced FAEs here at BenQ. Francisco.
Hey, Cooper.
Go ahead and stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing, let you grab it.
All right, let's jump in here. All right, that pop up for everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, go ahead and get started. Like Cooper mentioned, my name is Francisco Flores, and I'm here in our BenQ studio. I actually was in the classroom for about 12 years. I did mostly middle school, but also did some time at elementary, and then the last 4 years I taught were at the high school level. And this is really one of those types of products that would have been really exciting in the classroom. It really does help increase, I think, student engagement, but it also lets me be more in proximity to my students. I can bring them up to the front, especially those reluctant students. I can picture them in my classroom right now, the ones that are kind of hidden away in their corner. They're kind of come within themselves and they're kind of like a turtle shell protected. This is a really great way, especially with those students, to bring their work to light, because we know that a lot of the times they're very capable and they have some great stuff to contribute. It's just getting them up and engage and having them engage with the rest of the class. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my friend here. This is our BenQ board here in our studio. This right here are our standard apps that come kind of on the home screen out of the box. I do have my custom background here. The InstaShare 2 icon is this purple guy right here. It'll say InstaShare 2. And I do want to throw a couple of extra things out there to you, is that this is actually a customizable home screen. So if you didn't like it there, you can move it here, 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 really anywhere that you see that gridded area. Or you can even bring it down and drop it down in there in your taskbar and just have it live down here and get a nice clean look, get those icons off of there. All right, but we'll jump in here. So InstaShare 2 is a really great wireless casting solution so that you can take the content from your device and send it up to the display, but it doesn't stop there, because it also takes that content that you have on your device and it adds a level of engagement and interactivity due to the software that we have featured on our BenQ board. So I'm taking right now, I've got an iPad in my hand. This is, I think, the entry level iPad 10th generation. So really the like entry level point here. I've got the InstaShare 2 app pulled up on my iPad. I've got the InstaShare 2 app pulled up here. And one thing I do want to point out is you'll notice I do have a Wi-Fi network connected to this board. The devices do have to either be on the same network or on a network that communicates with the network that the board is on. And that can be attributed through network tunneling or through subnets that can be set up a couple different ways so that the devices can communicate. All right, so now on my app, I'm able to share my screen from my device up to my board. Tap that button, and you should see there is my Google Slides on my iPad. So now I'm presentation mode. All right, so now you'll see what's on my iPad is what's actually up on my screen. And as I'm going through my presentation on my iPad, it's also switching it and changing it up on screen. Now I mentioned the interactivity, the engagement feature. That's going to come into play with this little guy right here. This is our floating toolbar, and you can actually access it either from this circle floating dot with the pen icon, or from these little sidebar menus that you'll find here on either side of your board, right here at the bottom. What this is going to do is going to give me a host of tools, such as the pen tool that I can then use to annotate, markup, make notes. I've also got this highlighter, come in here like that. There's a little cursor wand icon here that's going to be an on-screen cursor so that I can do visual tracking, kind of point out some specific information to help those students that might have trouble, like, wait, what are you talking about? Oh, we're right here. Then the eraser tool, it's a nice fun palm eraser. You also have the option to do a strike-through eraser, which I like to call my Fruit Ninja, because you just cross it out. Give you 5 points bonus for that one. You also can just clear everything all at once. You might notice there's a little finger icon here. This is nice because it actually allows you to come in and interact with your screen, so that if you needed to switch activities, apps, you can tap on the screen and still have this tool pulled up. Now, when you have those annotations, one thing to note is that this is going to be like an overlay. So all these annotations, all these notes that I might be making are actually sitting on top of my slide, very similar to if you think about a transparency sitting on top of a worksheet. So now if I were to switch my slides, you'll notice the annotations stay. So if I needed to have a copy or a record of my notes on this specific slide, that's where this next feature comes into play, and that's going to be our screenshot. Little camera icon, I've got a landscape here that's going to allow me to take a screenshot, not just of the entire screen, but I can actually come in and do a very, very customized section of my screen as far as what notes that I want to keep a record of. With this screenshot, I've got a few options. I can go full screen with my button here, back to my little resizable square. I have a save icon, which will allow me to save it in my file manager locally on the board, or with my cloud drives connected via my AMS, or as we like to call it, all my stuff, you can save it directly into your cloud drive. But my favorite is probably this button right here, second from the right. It allows you to take that screenshot and send it directly into our Easy Write whiteboard. So now I've taken a copy of the notes that I made on this slide presentation and sent it right into my whiteboard. So then it can become part of another lesson, an extension. I can just keep a record of this. We can build off of this, right? So there's a lot of different things I can do once I have it over here in my whiteboard. But now I'm out of my InstaShare too, right? Not to worry. Down here, right here, it's a little floating menu. This is actually our InstaShare 2 floating menu. So if I tap on this, you'll notice it's giving me the information of my connection. You'll notice here that I've got my smart split screen, which I've only got one device, so I can take up the whole screen. Or if I wanted to, I can actually tap here and throw that up in a floating window. So now if I wanted to, I can have that whiteboard pulled up and my InstaShare 2 with my iPad display pulled up here, and it still allows me control of my iPad and also the display of the slides that I've got pulled up in real time with the ability to come in and annotate on my whiteboard. So there's two different layers that I have access to here. And it's resizable, so I can go large, small, or medium. And then when I'm done with my annotations, I can tap right there to bring this back to a full screen display. Now, if I wanted to add more than one display, if I wanted to bring in my students, if we're doing a group presentation, I love the group presentation. But again, they're not quite ready to all come up to the front, stand here, they're going to be standing, right? We can actually bring in multiple displays on screen using that smart split feature. Now, Cooper mentioned earlier that our InstaShare 2 software, let me hide this for a second. So that's one of my favorite little things. There's a little eyeball that you notice when my iPad or my device is pulled up, the eyeball is highlighted. If we need to hide this display temporarily, you just poke the eyeball. So right here, poke, and we've got it hidden. Okay. Right here, he mentioned some of the different compatibilities that we have. InstaShare 2 has native support for Windows Miracast, Mac, iOS, iPadOS, AirPlay, as well as Chromecast from your Chromebooks or the Chrome browser itself. Miracast is probably my favorite native compatibility right now because of what Windows has done with a recent update. You can actually Miracast with Windows by pressing Windows K and share your screen up on the display, and you still get audio, video, and touchback from Windows, right? So that's a great feature there. With your AirPlay devices, you do get your audio and video shared up on screen. However, at this time, the AirPlay doesn't support the touchback feature on any of the devices. InstaShare 2 app on your Mac OS does support audio and video. Again, though, with the MacBook, even with the InstaShare 2 app, you're going to have a really great experience with touchback. But it's that AirPlay, however, just still not quite there yet. And then the Chrome gives you your audio and video, but regardless of device or browser, that one still also does not have support for touchback on the boards with that native Chromecast sharing. All right, so let's bring in some additional devices as we were talking about earlier if we're doing a group presentation. So I'm going to bring back my iPad. There's my first device. All right. So here I've got MacBook. One of the other things that I like in the InstaShare 2, our most recent version of InstaShare 2, has a fabulous option that allows you to either share your entire screen. Let's show this one. So here is the entire screen. Or if I go back prior to selecting share my entire screen, I also have an option to share a specific app. So I can select my Chrome browser. I can hit share. And now all you're going to see is the browser and not any of the additional apps or programs that I've got up and running. Another feature of InstaShare 2 on your computer is the ability to select to have InstaShare 2 serve as an extended screen. So now I can drag it over and have my presentation on my second screen here. So even with InstaShare 2 app, you still have multiple options on how you want to actually share the information and display up to the board itself. All right, now I'm just going to throw the Chrome browser back up. There we go. Bring in my slideshow. Okay, so there is two devices. There's my laptop and my iPad. Gosh, I got to get the rest of my team together. Come on, guys. We're doing a presentation.
There you go.
Come on.
Awesome.
Just kidding. My team is just me, so it's just me in here. Okay, slideshow. Get the slideshow up on everybody. Everybody's got a different side pulled up. Okay, so I've got iPad right there. Got a couple of MacBooks and a Windows PC all sharing simultaneously on screen. There's one, two. So again, Smart Split Screen adjusted the windows. So as the devices were added, it gave an equitable piece of the real estate to each one of the devices. Here you'll see again that I've got my list of devices. You've got the little eyeball that's highlighted. If there was one that maybe you needed to hide for whatever reason, oh, Ben, that's not what we're supposed to be doing right now. Why don't you take a break? Let's pull you off of the display temporarily. Take a break, come back, and then you can jump back in and continue presenting with your team. We can bring that display back by just unpoking the eyeball, and he's back in joining us for this presentation. If for whatever reason, Ben couldn't get it together, right here on the three dots, you have the option to completely disconnect that display. And that's just one of the additional layers of kind of security, if you like to call it, that you have available while displays are being shared with the board, is that you can actually come in and completely disconnect them from this session. Minimize here. This one. You also can see here that you've got a couple of different buttons on each display. There is a speaker icon that tells you, okay, this one right here is green. That means this is the display that's currently sharing audio. You can switch by tapping on the speaker icon for the display that you would like to hear the audio from. So that way only one audio stream is being fed through. You also have another button next to that that will take that display and send it full screen. So now that one has been highlighted. That's the one we're talking about, the one that's being featured. There's my floating tool, so if I need to do any annotations on that one, I can. Then the button that I push to make it full screen will take it back down to the split screen. And you have a last button here that's actually going to close out that display. But again, if we wanted to bring it back, we just unpoke that eyeball. So this is one way that we can get multiple students' devices displayed simultaneously on screen. We still have our annotation tool. We can still take screenshots. In addition, if we wanted to record the entire team presentation, if I wanted to record my presentation, my slides as I'm going through them, you also have this last button right here that is our screen recording button, which allows you to record anything on screen on this display, regardless of which input it is, as well as audio being spoken or being played. We have built-in microphones here, and then the audio stream to a video file that can again be saved in that AMS locally or into the cloud storage that you've linked on that website. You also still have access to your floating tool toolbox, which includes calculator, timer, stopwatch, scoreboards, and a spotlight feature, which is great if you needed to temporarily focus or highlight one specific presentation. That just gives you another layer that you can use for that. And you've got opacity and size settings here that you can manually adjust as well. All right. I want to touch on a couple of settings that we can have adjusted prior to connecting to the board. Because this, obviously teaching middle school, I know how they are. Not to say that that's anybody else's students, that might have been just my experience. But right here, you can actually set a connection password that has to be typed in on the sending device before it can connect. You also have the ability to turn on this button here. It says confirm before devices share content. So when I turn this button on, let me go ahead and kick my iPad off so I can show you what happens in that case. Close the iPad, and we're going to go ahead and disconnect it. Disconnect. Okay. So now when I go to reconnect my iPad, it will give me a window that pops up. Right here. Hey, this device is attempting to share. So this is where if I recognize this device, I know that, okay, yeah, that's me trying to share, I can hit allow. If it's a device that I don't recognize, I can hit deny, and that right there will pop up. It's like, hey, you weren't not granted permission, you cannot display. So that's another layer of security that you have available to prevent any unauthorized screencasts to your board. And the iPad is now back on. Right there. So couple layers of security you have with the network connection itself. You've got a connection password. You have the confirm before casting. So there's several different layers that you can put into place just to help with that digital citizenship piece as you're guiding and coaching your students with, this piece of their ed tech in their classroom. All right, so let's hide some of these. Because we've talked about having my display up on screen. I can take this and move about the classroom with my students. But one of additional feature, right? This is a biggie. This InstaShare 2 can also allow me to control the board from my device. So just like I sent this screen up there, I can take this screen and bring it down here. So then I can walk around essentially with my BenQ board in my hand. So let's take a look at how that works. On my InstaShare 2 app, I will have a couple of options. Usually I would go and click on share screen to device, but in this case, I want to share the board to my device. So now this looks like a little bitty mini BenQ board. Now you can see here, these are to the board. So to the device right here, this gives me touch. This gives me the ability to annotate from my device. So now, same kind of options here if I needed to disconnect, but now from my iPad, set. iPad, I've got a little option here, and one of those is the touch. So now I can move about my classroom with my BenQ board pulled up on my device and control the board, control the apps, annotate, highlight, underline, all from my device anywhere in my classroom. And for me, this is really a game changer because I've been able to do, device to display for a while now, right? Projectors, laptops to my second screen, TVs, even at my house. But this having the ability to control the board itself and all of the different app options that it has, that is just another layer that allows me to be away from the board, be away from the front of my room, and be amongst my students. If I wanted to have the students jump in and interact, I can hand this to one of my students. Okay, can you show me an example? Can you bring this in, right? And now I've got another layer of interactivity and engagement with my classroom. Touch. All right, and that really does give us a nice overview of all the wonderful features that you have available with InstaShare 2 on your BenQ board. And I know we've got some questions there.
We do have a couple.
Take a few minutes and see if we can't get you some answers.
Okay, definitely have questions, Francisco, especially like I know you've shared how to share devices on the board and have multiple screens on the board. First of all, just confirming you are displaying on RPO4. Is it 75-inch board?
Correct. Yes. 75-inch RPO4.
I was correct. Just wanted to confirm. I didn't give out any misleading information. First question is, do each of those devices that are shared have to have an InstaShare app on them?
That's a good question. So I did demonstrate today using InstaShare 2, but like I did mention, is the native casting is also supported. So let me give you an example of what that looks like. Okay. So again, this is a Windows laptop. So on the Windows laptops, if I just do Windows, press and hold the Windows button and K, I get a little menu popped up here that tells me what are my available displays. So here I've got Miracast, and I just happen to know that, again, right here, Francisco Flores Miracast. I hit allow, and that's actually going to take my laptop and bring it up to my board. It should be up on my, duplicate. And then the Miracast gives me the option to either duplicate or extend. So this is duplicated here. Oh, let me slide over a little bit. And you also have the option here to allow mouse, keyboard, and other input from this device. So now I can control that presentation And that was all using Miracast.
Great question.
MacBook, same kind of idea with the MacBook. You close that connection. I'm back here. But one thing, let's go ahead and just disconnect all of these. Disconnect. Disconnect. Okay. So on the MacBooks, for example, you've got the menu in the top right that gives you the screen mirroring. I've got my list of available devices, so I'm going to select this board. So this one again gives me the option to mirror or use as extended. Mirror that display. Again, I still have that pop-up, still have that security layer in place. Click allow, and there is my MacBook. Again, using the native AirPlay support. This one though, like I mentioned, the AirPlay does not allow for that native touch interaction though. That's the only drawback on the AirPlay support for MacBooks.
Okay, I have another question, Francisco.
Yes.
From Jose. Our BenQs are attached to Windows PC's second screen. We have a teacher that would like to use InstaShare to control her desktop via second screen. Is that a possibility?
Second screen, is that, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that one. Is that a software?
I'm guessing what I'm understanding is BenQ boards are attached to Windows PCs, which is the second screen, I believe. We have a teacher that would like to use InstaShare to control her desktop via the second screen,
The PC plugged into,
which is the PC window.
She wanted to use the iPad to control things in the BenQ.
PC's plugged into BenQ. She wants to use the iPad to control things on the BenQ. I think you just showed that.
I think I'm getting it. So the PC itself is wired in, and then the iPad, you want to use the iPad to control what's being displayed. And in this case, the display pulled up would be the Windows computer. That sounds like fun. Okay. So I've got.
Yes, yeah. That's what he's asking.
Let's do it. Okay, so here I've got my computer. I'm going to wire it in. Okay. iPad. All right. Connect. Board to device. Where is the button? Maybe my InstaShare. Oh, right there. To device. Turn those on. Back to my input.
Get that.
All right, so that is my Windows PC, Windows button there. So I've got my BenQ board pulled up here. So let's give this a try. Push my touch button. I can annotate over it. All right, so it looks like the control from the iPad controlling the Windows that's plugged into the board is not a thing yet. Yeah, because I'm trying to like switch the slides and the slides aren't switching.
Yeah, he's saying no interactivity. That's the same issue he's having.
So that might be too many layers removed for it to actually be able to control that computer from this device. But let me dig into this a little bit more and do some testing and see if we can't get his information so that we can reach back out and follow up on that one. Because that is interesting. I like that idea, and I definitely want to look into that some more.
Great question, Jose. We'll get back with you. Francisco will get back with you with more details after his experimentation. All right, I have another question from Jennifer Brown. Will this work on a touchscreen laptop as well? I think we just answered that one.
Oh, yes, it actually works really well because then you can actually use the screen itself versus if you're controlling the board from a traditional laptop or a MacBook, because they don't have touch screens, you would just be using the mouse pad to use your mouse cursor to interact with everything on the board. So a touchscreen laptop, even better.
Okay, and then sort of a unrelated question, but related to the boards. How are your wall-mounted units holding up over time? My school system is considering what to do to replace smart boards, but we're hearing that one manufacturer's panels are failing after 3 years, or so being mounted to the wall. They are overheating, is what we're understanding. So I guess
so far, the units that we've got, at least here in our studio, I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now, going back 3 generations, and they're still going pretty strong in here at least. One thing I will say though is that none of the units I have in here are wall mounted. They're all on mobile carts, so that's one thing. But and it does get pretty warm in here with all 5 boards on and running. On occasion, I usually don't have all of them on, but as far as overheating issue, I haven't run into anything like that with all the units in this space. And this space is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 20. No, we're like 30. So it's about almost the size of a classroom in here.
Jeannie, I am not aware, or I have not heard any such complaints from any of our schools that have the board. And to the best of my knowledge, we have schools that have the boards mounted on their walls or on stands. So we haven't come across, to my knowledge, of that. I can do a little bit digging and asking around and get back with you on this specifically. Does that answer for you, Jeannie? Okay, we're gonna keep going. I have a question from Sarah. If you have time, would you model again how to dual share with iPad and
Whiteboard.
whiteboard
Okay, so let's do
with Easy Right?
Disconnect.
The first
Okay.
one we did. Okay, yeah.
Connecting via InstaShare. I'm going to share my screen up to the board. So Google Slides here for this example. I would switch over to the floating window. So that puts it there, and then I can open up my whiteboard. So then I have my floating window with my device presentation pulled up, and then I've got, let's get a clean page, my whiteboard pulled up. So I can then talk about what we're going over here as I'm going through the slide presentation.
Awesome.
Okay, I think I still have a couple more questions. Let me make sure I've answered. I'm going in order here. Tom, one of our attendees, also mentioned that he has had his boards for a while and have had no issues with overheating or such. Okay. Got that one. Jennifer Brown, can you use a window device to protect? And this one too. Okay, Ryan Chapman has a question. Oh, I answered that one. Which exact model are you using for a demonstration? Which is RPO4 75-inch, and it is on a stand in our studio.
Okay.
Give me just 1 second. I have a few in the Q&A section. Paul is asking what type of content / format can be wirelessly cast using InstaShare 2, and what limitations, if any, are there? What type of content? I'm guessing video or PowerPoint. I know you showed, so I guess we can share videos as well, or
Yes.
pictures.
So you can share picture images direct from InstaShare 2 app. You can also have the camera, the webcam on like a laptop or MacBook also be shared directly, so you can have that video feed wirelessly cast up here. One thing I will mention about videos, whenever you're playing a video up on screen, depending on your network, the network latency, which just means really just how fast the content's able to load and refresh, you may notice that there's a little bit of a lag on your video. I have seen that in some school environments, school networks, that like when somebody's talking, if there's talking on screen, the speech might not always match up correctly. But again, that's just that network latency or how long it takes to load and refresh that content based on your school network. You may notice that, you may not. One thing I really like is the lo-fi, where it's just a background that's very gently moving and it's like instrumental music. There's really no issues there because there's not anything that you need to notice that's syncing up. So those play really well for like background music, ambiance, things like that.
He has another question. Paul has another question. How does InstaShare 2 address privacy and security during wireless casting sessions, especially in education setting?
Good question. So a couple of things there. You do have the ability to like name the board specifically. So someone would have to know specifically which board they're looking for. But first and foremost is the network issue that I mentioned before, is the board and your device have to be on either the same network or a network that can communicate. So two networks that have been subnetted or network tunneling done between the two networks via the IT or the network engineers. So the devices have to be able to see each other and communicate with each other. So first and foremost, if that isn't in place, you won't be able to see the board from any other device regardless. But then you also have naming conventions that allow you to name the board specifically based on your naming conventions. This one just has a generic name here, but it can also be named based on campus number, room number, specific teacher names. And then you noticed I did mention the connection password that you can set. So password here, I can turn that on. So I can only connect if I have this password. And then even once I input this password, if I have this setting turned on, confirm before devices share content, you would notice that that window that keeps popping up would pop up every time somebody tries to connect to my board specifically. And then we have an additional layer down here. Scroll down a little bit. Right here, under advanced, there's native casting. I can actually turn the AirPlay, Chromecast, and Miracast visibility off for InstaShare so that the only devices that could connect to this board have to have the InstaShare 2 app loaded on them and be on the same network or a network that can communicate with a network that this board is on. So we do take that privacy and security very seriously, and we want to make sure that there's as many features and as many layers as possible so that you don't have any issues with connection in the classroom. Yes, okay. Question?
Okay, one more. I think that's similar to what you were talking about. Corey has, how can I get students to cast when they are on a different SSI ID than our staff?
So that's one that the network would either have to be subnetted, network tunneled so that those networks could communicate for the InstaShare 2 to be able to see those devices.
Okay, I'm just going through to make sure I've asked all the questions and I'm not missing anything. Give me just 1 second, Francisco.
I think I did see one about the InstaShare 2 and touch on the iPad. So the InstaShare 2 does not, is not compatible with touch here on the iPad. So like even though I've got InstaShare 2 app running on my iPad to display, again, that crazy Apple, I don't have touch capabilities on the board to control my iPad.
Okay, Sarah has a question. What type of interactivity best practices when using a Mac Mini?
Mini. That's actually not one that I've gotten to play with yet. I would love to play with one of those. But I have had a lot of districts that have um, Windows machines cast set up, Windows mini PCs. But really, it's going to be essentially the same as any other um, laptop device. If you're wirelessly casting with the Mac Mini, to be able to have that full interaction on the BenQ board, you want to launch the InstaShare 2 app from that Mac and connect via InstaShare 2. Then what you're going to have is full audio, video, and touch capabilities on your BenQ board so that you can interact with that Mac Mini directly from the board itself. You do have the ability to AirPlay your display up to the screen, but again, just as a reminder, the AirPlay would not allow for touchback from the Mac Mini.
Okay, and Ryan Chapman had another question, and I think it's about our boards that you're using. Does
Okay.
this unit support the Google Play Store with core apps and services?
Great question. Yes. Our entire line of O4 series boards are EDLA certified. So they all have Google Apps native to the boards. So all the way from this board, the RP, the Pro series, all the way down to our RE entry level models. In the O4 series, they're all going to have that EDLA certification so that you're going to have access to the Google Play Store, Google Drive, Slide, Sheets, Doc, as well as Google Admin Console to be able to control what apps and the Google Play Store visibility for your users, in addition to our backend device management services, where you can also do some custom level security with app accessibility on the boards themselves as well.
All right, I have Elizabeth saying this is a lot. If it were to be delivered into a system, do you have a recommended instructional plan that chunks it out? Elizabeth, I just want to clear, I think you're asking if there's like a handout that kind of gives you all the how-tos and tips and stuff for InstaShare app, correct? And if that's the case, we do have a very detailed brochure or a handout that goes over all of these things that Francisco has gone over. We will make sure that when we send out the recording, we share that with you guys, that handout as well.
And if it's something that needs more of an instructional piece that you'd like to talk about, we can definitely get your information also and have someone on my team reach out, and we can have some additional conversations along the instructional route as well. We can go that take that a little bit deeper if we need to also.
Yeah, Elizabeth saying that yes, they want it for teaching this to the staff. So Elizabeth, you can definitely get with Francisco and try to do like a schedule training for your school staff with them. We do offer that services as well.
One thing I do want to point out is that, yes, we've been demonstrating and demoing this all on our RPO4 series. But if you're a district or campus that has one of the previous generation boards that has InstaShare 2, so that's going to be our RP or our O3 series, and then most of our O2 models, InstaShare 2 is also accessible and available on those boards as well, so that you can utilize those boards within the same ecosystem and actually have multiple models in your school or district and still be able to utilize InstaShare 2 on the O4, O3s, and some of the O2 models as well. So this would be applicable on those models as well.
Okay, I think
That's it.
I have taken all the questions. Kathy had one. And I believe we've answered it, but I'm going to just say it again. If you
Okay.
connect with InstaShare 2 app on the iPad, can you use the touch feature?
Yeah, that's the one that I saw earlier. Yeah, so the InstaShare 2 with the iPad does not have that touchback capability. Unfortunately, Apple is very, very tight on their security, and that's just not one that we're able to access yet. I'm gonna say yet because hopefully that is a thing that happens. And M4 Mac Mini, I was this close to trading in my M1 MacBook Air, and then just throwing additional money because that is a very impressive little machine. So kudos to that one.
I know I'm going to have to check that out too, because I haven't seen that or got my hands on it either. I think that kind of wraps up on the questions. By the way, everybody asked great questions, and I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure
those
that
are
I take
great.
them on here so that whoever hasn't thought of the questions are able to get the answer and feedback as well.
Okay. Thank you, Francisco. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Okay, that is the end. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Francisco, again for InstaShare 2 demoing. Everybody have a safe and happy holidays. And don't forget to be on the lookout for an email from us. You may be the winner for the giveaway for the BenQ Screenbar Halo. We'll send out the notification afterwards. Thank you again. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you next year.